Okay, let me try again. So, so I think first thing is that just a random question, right? So how should how should we share a secret? So more generally, right? Let's say there is Alice and there is Bob. How should Alex and Bob generate a shared secret so that Bob and Alice like this, so this is this is kind of like the invariant that this scheme need to have, right? So first is that Bob and Alice knows the shared secret, but Bob and Alice shouldn't know anything, like any secret that their own has, right? So the idea here is that they want to have a shared secret. So for this shared secret, both Bob and Alice know. However, Bob and Alice doesn't want to know like their own secret. So why this is important? So this is kind of like one of the basics of what we are using, so-called ECIES scheme, right? So, so what is ECIES? So here, ECIES basically is a simple primitive. So it has one function called encrypt, right? So again, assuming we have two parties, we have Alice and we have Bob, and Alice have a pair of keys, a secret key and a public key. Let me use A here. And Bob has a pair of keys. So the first thing the ECIES want to do is that the ECIES can do an encryption of PK and the plain text. So this will generate a ciphertext. And the second thing the ECIES want to do, of course, this is an encryption scheme, right? So this encryption scheme you want to decrypt. And decrypt, you need to use a corresponding secret key of this PK. And with the input of ciphertext to get the plain text back. Right. So I think the key part here is that you can see the encrypt and the decrypt, the key they use is asymmetric, right? How does this work? And before we dive into the kind of like the technical details of the scheme, where do we use it, right? So in Manta, we use it in so-called in-band secret distribution. So for example, right? Let's say if Alice wants to send Bob, let's say 5 dot in Manta privately, right? Maybe I should use P dot, right? So basically she sends the transactions. And because we're doing we're protecting people's privacy, nothing is leaked, right? Because nothing is leaked, Alice need to have a way to kind of communicate with Bob that, hey, like I send you this 5p dot. So, I mean, of course, you can do the outbound secret distribution. I mean, just a fancy way to say, hey, Alice may send Bob a message through Telegram or Signal or WhatsApp, any kind of like end-to-end encrypted message communication channel. But this is not super convenient. So for example, thinking you are an artist, you post your address online and want someone to send you some like a patron or kind of like a donation, they don't necessarily tell you, right? Just like too much. Then what do we do? So then we do so-called in-band secret distribution. The idea here is that we actually put some information on the blockchain so that everyone can see it. But this information is encrypted so that only the designated person have the secret key could decrypt the information. So that's where this ECIES comes into handy in terms of the protocol design, right? So basically Manta and how we use it is that we basically have an encrypted node field. And here, basically we encrypt two things. This is a plain text. Delta is the asset ID. And V is the amount. So in this way, let's say you are Bob, you are keep monitoring the transaction on the blockchain. And you just try to use your secret key to decrypt. If this ciphertext is not designated to you, your decryption will keep failing. And once in a while, you can decrypt, you can successfully decrypt. And then, someone is sending the message to you, someone is sending some like a token to you, and you can also, you get the necessary information, which is asset ID and amount here, to decrypt, to basically to receive the token, right? So that's kind of like the usage of the ECIES in the Manta's protocol. So, I mean, so far, any question? Okay, I think we're good. And then let's talk, then how should we implement ECIES, right? So we have some known building blocks. For example, we have a block cipher. The block cipher is basically a symmetric encryption scheme. I mean, it's a lot of word. It basically said you have a secret key, right? You use this key to encrypt some plain text, and you get a ciphertext, and you use the same key to decrypt, right? This is well known. I'm not going to dive super in details into this kind of like a block cipher, right? So this is so for example, you can there are many kind of known block ciphers like AES, short for Advanced Encryption Standard, and also triple deck. And I think most people are using AES right now. So then actually, to be a little bit more secure, to having block cipher is not enough. And so in the underlying, so in most time, like 99% of time, you should use a authenticated encryption scheme, right? So it basically a block cipher plus a MAC. MAC is basically, think of the checksum. So this is basically can ensure So the block cipher is basically just the block cipher ensures the secrecy of the ciphertext, but also you want to ensure the integrity of the ciphertext in the sense that so there is a text called main in the loop or women in the loop attack. Basically, because the ciphertext is intended to share on the internet, so some third parties may alter the ciphertext. Let's say change it a little bit. Of course, the decryption could fail, but this failure could actually expose some information, right? So then, with a kind of like a several iterations of this alter, if someone has a permission to alter the ciphertext, for example, the internet service providers like AT&T, right? So just assumption, not necessarily they will do that, right? So and so basically, so here we're using the, I mean, again, I will not dive into the details of the authenticated encryption scheme. It should be easy to look up online. But the idea here is that we basically, the authenticated encryption is a block cipher plus a MAC. MAC is basically the like a message authentication check. Think of some checksum, right? So this is a high-level point of view, right? So this is also the authenticated encryption scheme, also called AEAD. And so far we lay out all the background. So then the idea here is that we want to build a like an ECIES, or ECIES is a kind of asymmetric encryption scheme, right? Now we want to build this asymmetric encryption scheme. So the idea here is that we're using the symmetric encryption, and more specifically the authenticated encryption scheme as a building block, right? So again, this is come with the idea of the key exchange, right? So the core, so basically what we do here is that, let's say, right? So again, I will use a yellow color as Alice, use a red color as a Bob. So Alice want to encrypt something, and want only, again, I'm showing their key pairs. This is ASK, APK, and this is BSK, BPK. So Alice want to basically encrypt the message such that only Bob can decrypt, right? So the idea here is that there generate a shared secret among Alice and Bob, right? Only Alice and Bob, either you have the secret key, could decrypt the message, right? So this is basically called a cage. This is also, people call this a Diffie-Hellman key exchange. This is originally from Diffie and Hellman. So the idea here is that we want to construct a scheme such that so we can have Alice SK times Bob's PK to have the so there are two ways to generate a shared secret. Let's say secret, and Alice PK and Bob's SK to generate a secret. Right? PK is public, since Bob knows Alice PK, right? On the Bob side, he can use Alice PK with his own SK secret key, generate a secret, and Alice Of course, Alice don't know Bob's SK because that should be confidential to Bob. But Alice will use her own SK plot with Bob's PK to generate a secret key. Right, so this is basically like a key exchange. This is actually a very well used protocol. For example, whenever you do SSH, you did a key exchange, and whenever you browse the internet, whenever you use the HTTPS protocol, this is used for the TLS. Okay, so the ECIES basically the idea E is for ellipse curve, EC is for ellipse curve, right? So ECIES, the idea here is that we're using the ellipse curve to do it. So you don't have to know the super details of the ellipse curve, but one thing you should know about ellipse curve is that so ellipse curve you can think of ellipse curve like more like abstractly. Ellipse curve have a group element, let's say G, right? And then you can do basically a group operation, right? So someone you using multiplication, and someone you use kind of like a addition. But it's very confusing here. But I think people in the past 20 years, people haven't reached agreement which one to use, so it still will be confusing. But anyway, let's use a multiplication notation. So basically, for the group element, right? So you could have a group operation. Let's say let's use a multiplicative notation, right? So basically, you can multiply two group elements, and this will result in a third, possibly third, because the group is cyclic. So let's use let's call this as a G square, right? So the idea here, but the security property we want to know here is that the discrete log problem of the group element is hard. Essentially means that let's say if you have a GH, right? Usually H is pretty large. It's very hard to reverse engineer to get H, right? This is a cryptographic assumption, right? So first, this is the assumption, right? So if someone breaks this, someone really smart to break this, then most likely all the crypto we're using today is going to be break. And so it's assumption means that people tried many years, maybe like tens or hundreds of years, try to break this math problems. Intuitively people think it's unlikely to break, but no one will actually knows, well, is it hard to break? For example, maybe with quantum computers, this could break, who knows? Okay, so that's assumption, right? So then how do we come up with a scheme, right? So the key part is that how do we come up with a key sharing scheme? So then, so basically then it's, actually, I will say trivial, right? So you probably already see. So how we the key here is how we generate the public key and secret key pair. So let's say when we generate key pair. So let's say Alex, we assume let's say Alex SK here is equal to A, right? So the group element is public. Right? How does Alex generate? This A should be sampled randomly, right? This is a secret, right? You have to sample randomly, otherwise people can guess it. So for a PK, it simply does that, right? And let's say the Bob's SK is B, then BPK is G to the power of B, right? Then how can we come up with a secret? Shared secret, right? Then easy, right? Because in Alice's side, she has an A, right? So then she knows Bob's PK. Then she will just use G to the power of B and do another round of explanation A you get G. Same as Bob, right? Bob knows his secret key, right? Also, he knows ls public key, right? He just used ls public key, which is G to the power B, sorry, G to the power A, and do the explanation, right? So this is you will get G to the power of AB, right? Boom. I think everything I have explained here, right? You can see when the actually ECIES happens, what Alex do. So when they do encrypt, so Alex basically first generate a secret key and also associated public key. This is we call the EPK, basically ephemeral PK. Right? It does a key exchange and generates the shared secret. And here there is actually one more step after generate secret. You do a key derivation just for extra security. But this is kind of could be ignored, right? So this is even if you don't do the key derivation, it still will work. So it will generate PK and generate ciphertext. And in the ECIES, this is using the ciphertext to generate the using the authenticated encryption to generate ciphertext. And then in the end result, it will attach both the ciphertext and the ephemeral PK. And then Bob could just use the ephemeral PK with his own kind of like a secret key to generate the shared secret and do a key derivation again. And then use that as a key to unlock the ciphertext. So yeah, so this is basically how does the, in a very, very high level, how does the ECIES works. So again, I think you might kind of like the helpful thing to know. You might see the people, there are some jargons called a CCA for a authenticated encryption. So this is stand for chosen ciphertext attack. So basically, this is a class of attack that I was saying before. There are some eavesdroppers, and someone could alter your text. And basically, the idea of using the AEAD that it's a chosen cipher attack secure. All right, I think that's pretty much it. And I will let me see. I will start the recording here.